Good morning. I'm Valerie Didier from Christie's. I'm a senior specialist in the Impressionist and Modern Art department at Christie's Paris, and I worked in the Middle Eastern art department in Dubai for 9 years. And I'm delighted today to introduce you both to Nadine Ghaffar, who's a curator and cultural ambassador and founder of Art D'Égypte, and Dr Rabie Bsieso, who is an art patron and collector, and who will tell us all about his passion about art. Nadine, if you would like to start and explain to us the beautiful mission of Art D'Égypte and its purposes.
So I must say that through Art D'Égypte, there was a mission to fuse heritage and contemporary art, which sprung from my upbringing. My mom is half French. I was born and raised in Alexandria, where all the masters came from Alexandria, as you know,
Yes,
of course.
indeed.
Mahmoud Said, Sefwanli. And from the way we were brought up, I was surrounded by amazing people like Dr. Hossein Rashwan, who was one of my idols in trying to preserve heritage through art, through modern art. And Muhammad Awad, Dr. Muhammad Awad, who was also a lighthouse in the Bibliothèque d'Alexandrie, and who was one of the people that tried to safeguard a lot of heritage buildings in Alexandria. And the third person, who's a French archaeologist, Jean-Yves Empereur, who actually created an entire institution in Alexandria for 20 years, the Centre de Recherche Français Alexandrie. And I used to go on excavation sites. So I think all this together created this need for something like Art D'Égypte to fuse heritage and art. And through that, to try and create more awareness on our heritage and to preserve it in a way or another. So this is how the whole idea of Art D'Égypte came into place. And then developed into Culturvator, which is a recent global cultural platform and consultancy, since it became a case study to the region. And therefore, we would like to recreate this success story in different parts of the region and do the consultancy.
And Art D'Égypte was founded in 2016. We've had 5 extraordinary annual events, which, I think spectacular is the word I'm looking for, which really created a buzz in the Egyptian culture scene. I'm a witness of it. I think you too, Dr.
Yes. And if you allow me to speak about Nadine and Art D'Égypte, honestly speaking and frankly, she is in a different league. Because in general, in the Middle East, especially in the Arab world, not only in Egypt, what she is doing has never been done before. So it's really precedented. And also the level she is doing, the way she's tackling the issue, the way she's presenting the art, it has never been done before, nor it will be done. Honestly, it's very hard. And also as a woman to do this, it's really tough. We're very proud of her. I always tell her, not you think outside the box, you think in a different level, you are in a different league. And what she achieves, the way she promotes also Egypt, the culture of Egypt, the art of Egypt scene, and she merges it with the international bodies and artists around the world. I don't think anybody is capable of doing this, Arab or non-Arab. I'm a great fan of her. I'm a great supporter. We love what she does. And honestly, I always tell her, you swim against the stream because of so many difficulties, which hopefully we will tackle and we will see and shed some light on. And yet she does that year after year. The only problem with Art D'Égypte, and I told her that 2 years ago, is she raised the bar so high that there is no more further space to go, really. What more can you achieve? The way, the concept of having the beautiful pyramids, which is like a historic place, and at the same time combining the art, making the beautiful, bringing the artist doing this, that's anybody who's a small collaborator or supporter or sponsor with Art D'Égypte, he's the one who has the benefit and the privilege, not the opposite. Art D'Égypte is She's the queen of art.
Yes.
I have to bring this back to the history of patronage because this is exactly the point. This platform of Culturvator and Art d'Égypte became what it is today thanks to co-creators. So Dr. Rabie is also one of the co-creators. Without this collaboration between different entities and having the real and sustainable support of patrons, nothing can be achieved. And if we just go back into history, and that's why I'm comparing you maybe to Prince Muhammad Ali Tawfiq.
I was going to bring him in.
who's someone that Valerie and I almost loved maybe in the 20s and 30s. Prince Muhammad Ali, where we had our exhibition and Valerie was on our curatorial board in 2018, and actually Rida Mamouni as well was on the curatorial board. And Rida actually helped a lot again, so also having a curatorial board of curators from around the world helped a lot. Rida was one of the people that helped because he did the same thing in Tunisia. So we took this palace, and I was so impressed with the parcours of Muhammad Ali Tawfiq. So before in the 40s and 30s, to have a prince that had this eclectic space where each hall was also a preservation of history, because one was from Istanbul, as you know, the Golden Hall, from Syria. So he safeguarded all these buildings that were being torn down. And he had the first private museum in his space. Not only that, as a patron, the mission, and this is one of the missions of Art d'Égypte and Culturvator, is to democratize art. So he would open the doors of his garden in public holidays for people to come in. And this is why a patron is important, because he's doing something bigger than himself. So when Dr. Rabie is supporting any institution, not only Art d'Égypte, but with the books, as you guys will talk about, this is what keeps culture and heritage and art alive. So this role is so important. It is really essential.
Yeah, and giving access to
Exactly.
to everybody who's probably not doesn't have the chance to see the art in the same way and every day.
This is a very important point. I would like to elaborate more when.
Well, that's why I was going to just say that to go back to Manial Palace and what Prince Mohammed Tawfiq Ali did, how patronage, so obviously since the 30s, 40s, has changed today, and you as an art patron, what is your role? Like, do you feel you have a responsibility today, which obviously Prince at the time probably had too, but today it's more of a subject. And do you feel that it is your role now?
Yes, it's interesting the way how this started, because for me, the love of art and the collection of art started in 2019, which is very recent. Not like my wife that was collecting art for more than 25 years, and she was in that. And actually, we can speak this on a later stage, because in a way I was really against art. I was not a fan of art, especially modern and contemporary art. And then yet, whatever happened, and I started being addicted and sucked in, and started building the collection, and started falling in love with art and following the artist and studying and doing and this. And then if you are really in love with art, if it hits you to the core inside, then you would feel the responsibility and the necessity for supporting art in so many different levels. And this is where I disagree with so many people, that loving art is not only buying paintings and that's it, and keeping it for the sake of anything, either investment or not investment or anything. No, it's much more than that, because art is a message. Having a beautiful collection or being in love with art, then you are obliged, as Nadine said, and it is imperative for you to support. Now, supporting art has so many different levels and ways. I think among the most important, and they are same levels, is with books like honestly what you're doing. I think the artist or the art industry should do you a sculpture, for what you and Dr. Rashwan are doing, really, because the resume that you did for Mahmoud Saeed and now hopefully for Abdelhadi Al-Jazar and for Emi Azar, that's putting it in a different level. That's authenticating it for eternity and for history. And this is how the ultimate added value that you can do. And it is in every art collector or even art lover is duty to participate in such a thing. We are lucky to have people like you and Dr. Rashwan that are capable of doing such a thing, because it's not easy. You are forming history with this book. This is number one. Number two, with Nadine, now the good thing or the bad thing or both, that there is only one Nadine. There is only one Art D'Egypte. Thank God there isn't a lot. So supporting her is a must, of course, because she really does thing that is completely different. She merges the international art scenery with artists, with the art in Egypt, and yet with Egypt's beautiful history and culture, and that's something, that's a very unique formula. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you said a point which I always had in mind, because for me, when I started collecting, I started, of course, analyzing the artists, analyzing the best theme and what are the masterpieces and so on, and started tracking them around the world and going to different auctions and so on. It is so sad that certain paintings you only hear of, you never get to see, because the owner doesn't want to show it and you have no access to it. Another you see in pictures, but you cannot see in life also because the owner, and that's not right. For me, I don't want to say that that's a crime, but that's not right. That's not a real art collector or art lover or a patron, no. That's why I intended all our art collection, which is over 500 pieces, we always participate in avenues or in galleries or in so many things. That's not a commodity like gold where you hide it. This is art. If you understand the real meaning of art, the real passion of art. So this is a must. So a patron should do so many things, anything that will help or enhance art, either through galleries, through beautiful international, like Nadine, through books, anything. And this is, unfortunately, in general in the Middle East, it's not very common.
That's what I was going to ask, because I think the key word here is legacy. Yes. It's creating a legacy. I mean, Nadine is working with cultural heritage, but continuing this legacy. You have your art collection that you want to display, to share, so that there is a sort of legacy that is transmitted to everyone. Same with my books. The whole aim is also that there is a legacy that's set in stone. And when we all disappear, well, it won't be all forgotten. So in the Middle East, are there other patrons, art patrons that you look up to, that have inspired you? I mean, of course, one comes to mind because what you were saying reminded me of his motto, Sultan Al-Qasimi, yes, of course, from Barjil Art Foundation, whose motto is, the warehouses must be empty, because meaning all the works need to be on loan, in shows, in exhibitions, which is what we just had in Christie's London the whole summer, where more than 100 works from Barjil were exhibited, and it had a massive impact. So what other patrons do you, maybe Nadine, you worked with a lot.
I must say,
she's the one that knows them all.
She knows them all.
I must say that Sultan Al-Qasimi, coming from a different country, was the first patron to Art D'Égypte. First patron. When I did not even know the meaning of patronage in 2017 at the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir, Sultan Al-Qasimi and Barjil were the first supporters of this initiative when it was the first year.
So that must have boosted you.
And that was why when we started reading into history and researching, that's how we opened up a patronage system in 2018, thanks to the story of Muhammad Ali Tawfiq, late Muhammad Ali Tawfiq. And that's how more and more patrons came into Art D'Égypte. And I think as a mission, this sensibilized a lot of people in Egypt, a lot of collectors, into doing more than for themselves, like Dr. Rabie is saying, to be a bit selfless and to open this up to the public and to do work that will benefit many people. The pyramids last year, the exhibition was visited by 800,000 people for free. We don't charge people to visit the exhibition. They just pay the entry fee of the pyramids. We have 200 art guides that graduate from our program every year, where they get an honorarium, they get a certificate, patroned by the UNESCO. And this is doing things beyond ourselves, because at the end of the day, it's a public-private partnership, and a bit we want to give back. So by giving back is that we pay daily fees, we rent the spaces. So it's a huge cost to keep this open to the public. But our first mission is to democratize art. And second is to showcase so many artists. And by inviting the world and international artists to create such a dialogue with different civilizations, the PR and the value is insane. It's over $10 million a year. So imagine CNN, Forbes, all this is just purely organic. As Dr. Rabia was saying, the phrase that I want to keep as a motto is that because it is real content and it is genuine, it comes across. You can't lie to people. You can't fake something. It has to be real. And when something is real and genuine, and there's a lot of passion put into it, and I have to thank the passionate team that works with us and believes in what we're doing. I also have to thank the artists that are a huge part of this, and they themselves are patrons. And advocates of Art d'Égypte. So, and showcasing in different spaces like downtown Cairo, CIAD. We had over 100 artists last year. So it's a huge engagement and undertaking. And I believe that this opened the door to, as you were saying, Dr. Rabia is really one of the few. I've only seen a Swiss patron do that in Genève. And second to that is Dr. Rabia. I've never seen anyone give on loan his private collection and pay money in an art fair so that it turns into like a museum.
People can enjoy it
This is really, really important. And what I'd love to see is a space where patrons could give more. And I'm sure Dr. Rabia is one of the people that if there's an exhibition at a museum, he would be the first one that would want to loan his artwork for the public to see.
Actually, I have a team who started now contacting various institutes or places around the world to do that, to make it, because I think it's something very important. See, it's for example, the Middle Eastern art, in a way, in Middle East, it's known. But international or abroad, it's not known. And I do believe it does not take the proper image or space or category where it should be.
Of course.
Hopefully with your books, the resonance that you're doing, it will take it there. And if we can shed more light and attention for the international bodies or collectors to come and see, because art is art. It has no nationality, it has no religion, it has nothing. Art is art. It is a feeling of a passionate, talented person and makes this beautiful artwork.
Of course.
Yes, it can be political, it can be a certain statement, it can be, and this is how you interpret it. It's something else, and this is the feeling. So the feeling and what's going through your mind and the emotions and all this, it is interpreted in a beautiful paintings full of colors, and this is what makes it very unique. So I do believe when we talk about technique, when we talk about quality, when we talk about everything, you tick all the boxes. No, the Middle East, they have a lot of incredible paintings, which equivalent to those paintings, but with other names, are sold or evaluated with 10 or 20 times the price, and that's not fair. Now, this has so many elements financially, because at the end of the day, it is demand and supply. In the Arab world, not a lot of people we don't have this in our culture, to pay a lot of money, millions, for paintings that are in the Middle East. Number one. Number two, when you were talking, the problem with having patrons or support or this, it's not in the culture of any country. It's not how we were raised or educated, and this has nothing to do, eventually everybody's going there. For example, give me any country in the Arab world, how many art museums do they have? Compare it to other, this is what tells you, when you go school trip, you never go to an art museum, while in Europe, every week you can go to different, but this is changing now. For example, certain countries, of course, without mentioning name, are building now museums, are starting their collection. So it's never too late. They're starting realizing how important art is. And that is an important factor. So when you have art and you are raised and grown up and there is art around you, or there is art study in school in the curriculum, or there is the museums, this affects you. Then you start realizing art, you start realizing artists, and you start giving this...
and you learn to respect it.
Of course, you learn to respect
I have
it.
to build on that as well. I have a small story. My father's neighbor was in Agami, in Alexandria, was Muhammad Said al-Farsi, who was a big collector and who then became the mayor of Jeddah. And I must say that he studied in Alexandria in architecture, and he built a huge collection of modern and a bit of contemporary Egyptian art. And then this became a book, museum and a book. And I think I would like you to talk more about this, because I think it's very important. And as he was saying that we shouldn't have lines. So he's a Saudi collector who built an Egyptian art collection and started putting it up front. And then we'll talk about Christie's. Another example who's also unbiased to Alexandria is Sheikh Hassan al-Thani, who also had the same story of building a collection of Egyptian art. And you will talk about this, because I think this is very, very important, how different parts of the region should support, because Beaux-Arts was in Egypt in 1908. Prince Youssef Kamel. And then 30 years later, there was an institute in Iraq, so Cairo, Iraq. And this is very, very, very important. I think this is a very strong message of how the region should support. And as you were referring, a lot of countries now, like Qatar, did Mathaf, and they have some of the most beautiful Muhammad Nagy is in Mathaf. So this regional support, this regional dialogue is very important. And this year you will come and see, we have a pilot of Arab dialogue, but referring to that point in history where this cultural dialogue, which is a regional dialogue, is very important. And of course, Farsi was, when he was the mayor of Jeddah, who knows, in the rest of the world there's a stereotype. Who knows that in Saudi and in Jeddah, the mayor had public art. He had Rodin, he had Miro, in the middle of Jeddah, where at that time art was taboo. So imagine all of this, if it's not narrated, if it is not shown, either through books or through collections that are open to the world, through patrons, where would we be today? How would we talk about ourselves? Because as Dr. Rabia was saying, art or the artist is narrating a story. And is when you see Mahmoud Said, when you see Napoleon, or when you see the Canal de Suez, it is a part of history that is there and documented through the lens of the artist, through the artwork. and it is there to stay. So this is really important. And regionally, there are blurred lines. I've learned so much through art, and this is why we created Culturvator. As you know, in 2020, we decided that we will have, the government gave us the okay to do the first big contemporary art exhibition curated at the pyramids, which at that time the archaeologists were opposed. What is this contemporary art and installations? But the stories we've learned, I mean, through a Saudi artist, Sultan I, Sultan bin Fahd, his artwork is on Ramses III. And he's like, yeah, the inscriptions were Tayamea in Saudi. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not true. I had to call up Zahi Hawes. And he's like, yes. I was like, how did the pharaohs end up in Saudi? He's like, yes. So there are so many regional connections that you cannot really separate. And that's why Culturvator was created, to take this success story and case study into different parts of the region.
And I think in terms of, just to go back on the idea of regional connection, regional support, one of your patrons, the late Dr. Ramzi Daloul, who is now the foundation is managed by his son Basil Daloul, who's also a great art patron of the region. He really also instigated this idea of a museum of pan-Arab arts, I mean, covering this regional connection. And I think when you go there and you see all this art, you feel and you see the connections, and it all makes sense, really. So I mean, I understand what you're saying about you need regional support, and that's why Culturvator is probably a great branch and a great platform to connect the dots. So hopefully you can bring events like the one in Cairo, but also elsewhere in the region.
Let's see.
Well, we're hoping.
I think it's important if you also discuss the turning points.
Of course, yeah. The in terms of raising awareness, to go back to your point of that Middle Eastern art in general is barely, let's be honest, is barely known in the West. I mean, until very recently, I think there's a big problem of education. That's for sure. But in terms of raising awareness and, of course, lending the works, what Barjil has been doing, publishing books, it's the whole issue, because as an academic, I believe that books are a tool that needs to be used to raise this awareness. But I'm sure there's a lot of challenges, not only as an art patient, but also you, Nadine, as an art curator. Challenges.
She has the most challenges, really, because she has to deal with so many places and areas without going into details. While a personal private patron doesn't have those issues, he simply decides or no. If you allow me, I would like to continue. Qatar Museum is a success story, and I think it should be a study case. And really, of course, with the support of the government that headed Sheikh Hassan Al Thani, that did an incredible job. So not only having the support or having the financial backup, that's not how you build a museum with only money. No, he really had the knowledge, he had talent, he had this, and he did an incredible, and the eye, he did all the boxes he ticked, and he did an incredible, beautiful job. Now, thank God there is also a beautiful museum in Abu Dhabi. Hopefully it will enhance more of the Middle Eastern art, and I am looking forward for the museum that will be in Saudi Arabia, and I am sure it will be a matter of time, and I am sure it will be a beautiful museum that would really stand alone. Now, going back to Mohammed Said Farsi Abu Hani, is a very good friend of the family, by the way, in Jeddah. He wasn't the mayor, he was the head of municipality. The mayor at the time, that there wasn't the title, he was so old, and who was responsible to build the city was the head of municipality, he was the head of municipality. He literally built a city from A to Z, and he was the only one to introduce art art. He brought international artists to do the sculptures on the beach and the roundabouts and this everything, and they are really incredible. And his collection is a collection that
I think it was a turning point.
that can never happen again. So this is it. And Nadine's point is right. Look at someone who had an own vision to do that, and yet he had support. So it is very important to look for those people who have this vision, who have this, and to back them or give them the support to go, and they can reach different levels. Nadine is one of them. She has this separate vision. She doesn't wait for anyone. She always thinks, she always done. So if there is Mohammed Said Farsi in Saudi Arabia, Jeddah in particular, because he was the head of municipality in Jeddah, so only Jeddah has those art. Nadine is there in Egypt, and she's doing this, and she's enhancing all that.
Yeah, and I think when Christie sold...
I need an allowance from her.
It sure sounds like
The whole interview is about...
I actually want to state a fact that I think you should talk about, which is the Christie's exhibition we did for Mohammed and Aifat Nagy. Because through your research, and thanks to your research, the family of Mohammed and Aifat Nagy were educated by, their professor was André Lotte, the French artist. And there was these cultural bridges as well. And Valerie took all this research, and it would be great if you could talk about that and to show
I think there's two two exhibitions that Christie did recently, at least. I'll start first to go back in 2010 to Mohammed Said Farsi's collection, which, as you all know, when it came for auction at Christie's Dubai in April 2010 and October 2010, the prices skyrocketed. I don't, even now, I've never attended an auction where suddenly I didn't even have time to raise my hand to bid. It went from 100,000 to 1 million for Le Chadouf. So these two sales are key, I think, for modern Egyptian art. A bit later, we sold the Faris art collection. Again, there were very good prices. And I think, although we're talking about commercial here, it still raised awareness globally because it was Christie's, the leading international auction house, selling these works, and every newspaper was talking about it because of the prices. All these artists suddenly were coming to light. Everybody was trying to grab a Mahmoud Said, a Ghazar, a Mohammed Nagy. So I think this was a real turning point. Although we're talking about an auction house, it still was pivotal in terms of raising awareness and suddenly making maybe collectors realize what they have is that, wow, this is actually very valuable. It has like a commercial value. And then more recently at Christie's Paris, because I transferred back to Paris, I saw the necessity, because also of the relationship we have, Nadine, and the relationship between Mohammed Nagy, Aifat Nagy, and André Lotte, there is a real bridge between France and Egypt, and particularly for those artists. So we did an auction of around 10 pieces from the artist's estate, which was 100% sold, very successful. And we dedicated a little room in Christie's Paris, dedicated to Mohammed and Aifat Nagy. And I could hear the comments of all the people who were coming to see the Impressionist and Modern Art exhibition and this little room. I could hear them say, oh, we have the impression we traveled to Egypt. And they're like, oh, who are these artists? Never heard of them, but they were reading all the notes we had done. And you could see that there was a big hole of knowledge, whereas it's people who are very well educated and who were very well into the art world, but that there is a real work that needs to be done, and that we're all trying to do here between us in different areas in different ways of bridging this gap between the West and the Middle East. I mean,
you know, in this point in particular, I do believe that there are 4 pillars that are imperative for this. The first one is the government of each country itself by building museums. Museums is a must. any country, for a lot of people when they go and visit, okay, they want to see so many things, but always the museum, it just tells you your history, your tradition, everything. You see it in so many different forms. Art museums are important, so the Arab world should have more art museums, which will help a lot by introducing and by marketing its artists, its art, while unfortunately for the time being, it's not that where we hope it should be. The second thing is the galleries. Galleries in some of the countries, or the majority, aren't really playing a good role. It's a gallery, most of their concentration is to buy with what price, to sell with what price, how to make a bargain, how to do this. That's not art. And you're an art gallery, you're a gallerist. It's much bigger than that, like the collectors. It's not just buying painting, no. And you see this actually in Europe, where there is so many galleries that really play a tremendous role in supporting artists, art, etc., and literally marketing them around the world, making them known. People that from scratch, I don't want to say from zero to hero, they're not zero, it's not right as a word, but really from scratch, and suddenly they're all over the world, all over the museums, being bought, being introduced. At least the knowledge of them being there, of their work, that's important. That's the galleries. Third is our beautiful Nadine with Art D'Égypte and the role that they play. Fourth is the collectors, the patrons, which I think they have a more important role. Why? Because there is no restrictions on what they can do and where and how. While with Nadine, the amount of restrictions that she has and the challenges is enormous. But really, with patrons, private patrons, and that's why I hope one day that there is like sort of a collaboration or a foundation or gathering or a club for patrons. Maybe it can be initiated by Nadine, because she's the only one who can really do that. Yeah. No, really, that's important, because I tell you, for example, in our collection, we also have sort of diversification, although the backbone, of course, it's the Egyptian art and artists, because art in Egypt is over, the faculty of fine art in Egypt is more than 100 years. And that's something a lot in the Arab world, yes, knowing that most of the Arab countries have 40 years, 50 years, 60 years of established. And so this is really important, just tells you the depth of art and the depth of history in Egypt. So having said that, if you really enhance this with the private patrons, because there are people that want to do this, but they don't have the guidance, they don't have, not the support, they are the ones that will support, or the supporters. You want the proper guidance or the proper path for that. So you want professional people like Nadine, or even you know, people who really, this is their bread and butter, it's in the blood. Of course. How to do, what is the best way to support, because support can be tremendous in effort, in time, and in money, and the result is zero, and vice versa. The opposite can happen. So,
but that's why I think, in terms of being an art collector, but also an art patron, as you say, probably a lot of art collectors also don't quite know who to trust or what kind of project they should be supporting. So you, as an art patron, I understood very well how, I mean, it's not, you don't even think about it. If Nadine needs your support, you go for it. Same with me, with the book, whether it's the Catalogue raisonné of Abdelhadi El-Ghazal.
Nadine's magic touch.
Yes, it is. So you didn't even think twice. Yes, I support. So the Aimé Hazard, yes, I support.
And you, again, the art industry is very lucky to have, really, because you will not realize, or maybe you do what you are doing, but after decades it will be realized.
We hope so.
No, it's a fact. It goes without saying. I believe among the thing which makes it underestimates the value of the art in the Middle East is they are not authenticated. Their work, their provenance, their paintings, their artists, their this, and this is very crucial.
This is for the collector.
This is where we differ between the art in the Middle East and in Europe or other, where it's very organized, it's very sophisticated, it's very archived, it's very institutional, documented. That's what you're doing. That's why I enhance you to take them artist at a time, really, especially the pioneers, especially those ones that deserve to have such things, or art in general, because a book, it will be international, it will be all around the world, especially every art collector, every institution, every foundation, every and so on, will start looking at, there is this book, there is this artist, there is this, and this is a way. And at the same time of so many collaboration, I do believe there is 100 ways to skin a cat. So you can have so many ways to really enhance that and support that and do that.
But then, just like Nadine said, and Art D'Égypte in this edition, especially without art patronage, basically wouldn't exist. Just like our books, so the books Dr. Rashwan and I have been working on, first of all, they wouldn't exist with Dr. Rashwan because he is also an art patron, but he also has the knowledge. But also, they wouldn't exist without you, without Yasser Zaki Hashem, without even Shawit Shafei, who sponsored Mahmoud Saeed, without Ahmed Farid, who participated. So there's quite a few names who have really made these projects possible. And I mean, in a nutshell, without all these art patrons we've just talked about, there's no book, there's no event, there's no art.
That's very sad to hear.
I know, but it's the truth.
It's
the truth. And if we want to continue, whether it's Nadine, whether it's me, whether it's even you collecting and promoting your art, there's a real need for this support. And I mean, I think Christie's is very, very honored to not only sponsor Art D'Égypte this season, and maybe Nadine, you can explain a bit more what is cooking for October 2023, because everybody is talking about it. But Christie's also participated in the book sponsorship. So I think, there is a real awareness also as Christie's, even as an auction house, to have that responsibility we talked about.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I think that's where we were talking about that our friendship is a long friendship, because again, as we are all here today, we're like-minded people, and there are few in the world that think the same way. And I think Christie's is more of an institution to me than an auction house or just commercial auction house. It played a very important role through what you've done in Dubai. The UAE played a very important role as well to host an auction house. So thanks to the government of the UAE, as you said, for allowing Christie's to exist and prevail, and the UAE being so cosmopolitan, imagine all the leaping steps it took to also bridging this gap, as you were saying, and that, okay, Middle Eastern art is not known to the rest of the world, thanks to this auction house that started thinking in more of the commercial value, but as an institution. They supported Mahmoud Saeed. Thanks to all the auctions that happened, the value of the art the art became more valuable. Thanks to what Valerie and I did in Paris with the legacy of Mohammed Nagy and Iffat Nagy, who are pioneers, and a lot of people don't know that Mohammed was maybe the godfather of the folk Egyptian art movement through La Chimère with Mahmoud Saeed. But since he did not sell a lot when he was alive, it did not, bring the right attention. And what Valerie did when she called me, I thought, she was bluffing. She's like, Nadine, we're with the European Impressionists. I'm like, excuse me, rewind. What do you mean European Impressionists? And as she was saying, that some of the buyers were not just people from the Middle East.
Really?
We've sold
Interesting.
It's amazing. We've sold.
That's I'm very happy to know. Actually, I asked her.
Yes.
You know.
Really, and this is raising awareness because it was not a simple auction. She actually did an entire haul. At that time, I couldn't make it and come, but an entire haul with all the research, all the papers, the letters. She did a parallel between André Lot, who was the professor of Aifat and Muhammad, and the letters that Muhammad wrote and Aifat wrote
from Egypt.
in exactly. So there was this cultural exchange. And this is very important. They were there with Renoir, in the hall right next to them. So in the same auction, there was Mohamed Nagy and Picasso and Renoir. So imagine what she did as well with the leather trader of Mohamed Nagy in Paris.
Still available.
This is available for a museum, hopefully. And also hosting Sultan Al-Qasmi's collection. This is so important. Christie is supporting Art d'Égypte every year. I must say beyond that, and that's why I'm happy to be here today, it's Christie's gave us access to also the courses for our team, for Art d'Égypte team to learn. And it's a real institution, there's real education, and that's the only way, because those young people that are taking these courses one day would become a patron. We have one of our youngest patrons who's 30-something. And
that's young.
Yeah, that's young. And having, you know, new patrons coming in, people that had never collected art before, but when they've seen this movement
Yes.
of Art d'Égypte, when they've seen what Culturvator is doing, they're like, okay, we want to be part of that. We live in Dubai. I'm very proud of Bishoy Azmi and
Yes.
Mary, because this is the story. This is
Amazing.
how it started. They're like, we live in Dubai. We want to be close to home. We want someone to help us create our collection. And I was there, and we started from scratch. And now they have beautiful modern paintings and contemporary artwork. And they've been patrons and supporting yearly, with also being advisors, as well as Dr. Rabie and his beautiful wife, Jomana, who's the real art collector. They have a similar story, and I think you should say the story, because I think it's very important for people to know how, because my husband was the same thing. From being into finance and looking at art as
I'd love to hear
color
how
and
a woman had the power to
but to becoming such a passionate and real collector, and really Dr. Rabie is really thinking institution-wise, and this is incredible. And you stated you started in 2019.
Yes.
Imagine,
So fresh.
imagine,
fresh.
and I think it's going to be very soon one of the most important
Sure.
art collections in the Middle East. It's incredible what he managed to amass in such a short time.
It is already among the most.
And
It is.
but really,
No, but also because you have a very comprehensive view
Exactly.
of what it means to be an art painting collector, but also you understand that there's the whole documentation part, there's the whole authentication part, there's the whole raising awareness part.
I tell you, I always say, everybody goes to the same law school. Everybody goes to the same, lawyers. They go to the same law school. Doctors go to the same doctors. Why does this lawyer become successful, or this doctor become successful? Although they had the same professor, same curriculum, same everything, graduated from same university. What? How you interpret the curriculum, how you analyze it, how you digest it, and how you do your own vision. I always say, you take the thing as it is, and then you put your touch. If you do not put your touch, you will be among the routine. You will never stand out or stand alone. That's why. So when I started in art and started collecting and started the lab, I started do my own research, my own analysis. You listen to people, and I was very fortunate to have met so many people. Among them is Dr. Hussam Rashwan, who I honestly think he's a legend, and I advise him strongly to make video tips for his stories. And
I did.
Yes, well done. So how you analyze, how you want to collect, how you want to do, how you want to improve, how you want to go, what you want to achieve, what to collect. And I do my own research, of course, with the help of, I have 2 committees, one for purchase and one for just analyzing and giving feedback. I don't care about what the society or what people or even what institutions say. For example, this artist, the best theme or the most important painting is the paintings when he was a child. If it does not hit me, if it does not click with me, if it does not, I don't see it, I will not follow what people or what institute, because I do not collect for the people or for the society. I collect for myself. So that's why there are, for example, if you ask anyone, they'll tell you the categories. Okay, Mahmoud Saeed is number 1, this is number 2. I'm not saying he's not number 1, number 2, but you need to have your own rating. Why do you buy Mahmoud Saeed? Because he's number 1. You need to fall in love with Mahmoud Saeed. You need to study Mahmoud Saeed's life. You need to understand his life. If you understand his life, then you will understand his painting and what it's coming from. Then you need to see the painting. Does it hit you or no? Coming back to this, the first painting I ever bought in my life was through a Christie's auction house. It was for Ismail Shamout. The only one who was bidding against me was Mr. Ramzi Dalil, may God bless his soul. We were the only 2 bidding, and for my unfortunate luck, imagine someone coming new and want to bid, and then you have a tycoon, who has this incredible collection and wants this painting, and he was the one against you. And even in that auction, when we came, my wife, because she's the one with experience, she told me, "But you understand auction houses?" I said, "Of course." She said, "But art auction houses?" I said, "No, other auction houses." She said, "You need to have a budget. There is 2 types. You either have a total budget for the paintings you want, or each painting has a certain budget." I said, "Don't worry. I need to tell you, because Mr. Dalloul wanted this painting and I insisted on this painting. It was do or die." And my wife left in the middle of the auction because she told me, "You need to stop. You need to stop. I will leave." And I was going to continue. Why? Let me tell you something. And this is the true love of art. It started with me, and never, ever, I've said this before in anywhere. When I was studying about art, because I was in Egypt and I always used to make fun of modern and contemporary art. I believe a 3-4-year-old just paints like this and puts this is art, While my wife had her paintings and she has this for more than 25 years. When we moved to a new house, I'll make it very fast track so it does not take long. When we moved to a new house, she brought her paintings with her. So I told her, "What's this? You bring this nonsense with you?" She said, "My artwork is nonsense." And you have to make a long story short. I told her, "Go and bring beautiful artwork that matches the walls, the furniture." She said, "Oh, how beautiful, decorative you want artwork." Yes, really. So she brought some galleries to look at the house and to say while I was watching football. And then I hear them, say about the work, "Oh, this artist. And she was mentioning the names. I said, "What, you want to tell me you know those artists, who they are?" She said, "Of course. They sell in international auction house. They're in Google and they sell for a lot of money." I said, this art, really, this is how it started. So I started researching every day, 6 to 8 hours, every day, 6 to 8 hours, about the art, about the artist, about their life. Whomever is alive, I go and visit him. Whomever passed away, I go to his family. I meet his wife, I meet his daughters. I listen to story. I see where they paint. And I started living this and building my own analysis of each one of the paintings, of everything, and what preferences do I have, what I like. And then when I was Googling, I saw an auction for Christie's and other 2 auctions in London at the same week. So I told my wife, "What do you say we go to London?" She said, "But why do you want to go to London?" I said, just to change, for a change. I didn't want to tell her suddenly I'm intrigued with art and I want to see art. So when we were there sitting, and we live very close to Christie's, by the way, I told her, "Look, by coincidence, there is Christie's. Do you want to go?" She said, "Yes, why not?" Of course, I already went to Christie's and I registered and I did everything, because you have your long procedures with the KYC, which is very good and it's very normal. And you have this 1 week. All this was completely new to me, to come and see the artwork before the auction. So I started and I checked all the paintings one by one. I came in front of this painting for Ismail Shammout for 3 days in a row, every day for an hour and a half. I am in front of that painting, and you cannot imagine the emotions that was stirring inside me, that moved. You cannot imagine what it brought to me, you know, and like every day I have like tears, I have like this for this painting, and I go back and my wife, what's wrong with you? Where were you? You know, where you go, you come back with your painting. I said, no, it's not. That's why for me, this painting, it is the most valuable painting, no matter what. And for my unfortunate luck, Dr. Dalloul wanted it, and it was like, you know.
But you got it.
Of course I got it. No, really. For me, it was an open budget, no matter what the price was.
So your wife didn't know that?
No. That's why she left the auction, really. But see, this is what makes people love and have the passion of art. Imagine a painting that cannot say any word, that does not speak. You cannot hear music, you cannot hear words. You see a painting and it just gets you the feelings, and you feel so many things. Ismail Shammout is a Palestinian artist, and this painting, I call it the family in the cell in jail, because it was a man. And he made him look like masculine with a mustache and all this, and he had the handcuffs in his hand, and he's looking at the window, and then the woman lying on his chest looking at him, and then the son looking at her, and there is like a small light coming from the cells, and you start going with your feeling. This is how great art is. It can open the windows for you where there is no barriers. You can feel whatever you want. Now, you bring 10 people, I assure you, when they look at the painting, each one would look at it different, will feel something different. This is how great art is. This is the passion of art.
Yeah,
if you don't
power on all of us.
if you have passion, then you're there, and it's a different passion. You need to be passionate. You need to feel it. That's why when you say, you call me or Nadine call you, of course I will go, because the passion is there, because you are contributing in that passion. You understand?
Yeah, of course, and you're part of the...
Yes. Now, having said all that, I wanted to ask you a question, because you were saying about that your book could have stopped, Nadine could not have continued this year, and I told you that's a shame. You, as a professional and as a specialist, and at the same time working for a very reputed international auction house and institution, what do you think is the proper solution for such things? How can you overcome such things for the Arab world or the Middle East in general?
I have an answer, actually.
That's your answer.
No, really, I realized...
Until she thinks.
No, I realized two things. I was advised that I think in the US and our part of the world, contributing to culture does not give you tax... Comment est-ce qu'on dit tax? How do we say?
Tax advantages.
Yeah.
That's true.
This, I think, should be solved by the ministries of culture of our region. That's, I think, very important. And, of course, it has to be very well known that any cultural activity anywhere in the world, even if it's the private sector, even if it's a company, a private company, and not an institution or a foundation, is not like selling something. You know, it is not that commercial. So it does need support, does need government support. It needs support from private entities, from companies, and maybe this tax advantage, if imposed by the government, for cultural activities would make a difference.
Maybe it facilitates, yeah. But I think we've gone, when you look back even at the last 15 years or so, there's a lot that happened, like in a good way, like we're going in the right direction. Yes. So I think it's all very positive, and, you know, it is thanks to you, Nadine, as an art curator, you, Rabie, as an art patron and collector, and all the others we've mentioned, that we are going in the right direction. So we just need to continue. We need to continue what we're each doing in our own little way, and promote what we're doing and raise awareness about it, and share the knowledge, share what we're doing, to create that connection and connect all the dots regionally, internationally. I think that's what we need to do. I mean, that's the solution. We continue. We're on the right path. Anyways, thank you very much for being here. Such a pleasure to have you here at Christie's Education in London, and I'm really looking forward to Forever Is Now Part 3 in October 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you.